The unthinkable happened when a knock came at their door late at night. Amina's mother opened it to find a man who was a close friend of her husband standing there with sorrowful eyes. He explained that her husband had been hit by a downfall bus while walking home from work and didn't survive. This is a story that began with determination and hope, but fate, as it often does, had other plans. A miracle that seemed like a blessing shatters their once peaceful life. Amina, an 18-year-old hardworking and devoted Muslim, sat quietly on her bed, staring at the cracked walls of their tiny home. Her heart felt heavy as she could hear it beat loudly. Her mother was in the kitchen preparing dinner after coming back very late from work, while her father had left early that morning, as he always did, to look for money. They are deep in debt, and the deadline was tomorrow. Her parents are struggling to pay back the compensation demanded by the parents of her schoolmates after the terrible incident that is greatly affecting their lives. Her father's absence was not unusual, but something felt off. It was nearing midnight, and he hadn't returned. The sound of her younger sister Fatima sleeping peacefully on the mattress beside her only deepened Amina's anxiety. She tried to shake the uneasy feeling, but she couldn't. Their problems had started months earlier. One evening, when Amina was scrolling through the internet on her old phone and an advertisement caught her eye. It was a scholarship opportunity to one of the most expensive schools in the city that only the wealthiest families could afford. The school, with its large campus and elite reputation, was far out of reach for families like hers. As she neared her final year in school, Amina knew this was an opportunity that could change her life forever. Amina's hand shook with excitement. She rushed to show the flyer to her parents as she explained what this could mean for her future. Her parents were hesitant at first. Even with a scholarship, they knew the hidden cost would stretch their already thin budget. But the hope in Amina's eyes was infectious, and they agreed to let her try. For weeks, Amina buried herself in her studies, preparing for the scholarship exam. She woke up very early in the morning, studied late into the night, and prayed frequently for a miracle. When the results came in, she had not only passed, but scored the highest marks among all the applicants. Her parents were incredibly proud, and Amina felt that she had finally reached a turning point in her life. Her first day of school felt like stepping into a different world. Amina was so eager to fit in. All the students wore designer bags, shoes, and accessories to beautify their uniforms, and Amina felt out of place in a neatly ironed but simple uniform. Her shoes polished to a shine that couldn't hide their torn edges, although she was still excited to join the school, believing it would open doors to a brighter future. Her joy didn't last long. The teacher introduced her to her classmates, and everyone was very polite, welcoming, and even amazed by her being the best scholarship student. But it didn't take long for them to notice she was different, and their attitude towards her changed from polite curiosity to dislike. Aisha, Ayomide, and Sophia, the most popular girls in her class, began to bully her for not being able to afford the same brand named clothes and accessories they wore. They mocked her for taking public transportations instead of arriving in private cars as they did. Amina endured their cruelty in silence, bearing the weight of their taunts and whispers. Amina's days at school became unbearable. Her grades began to slip as the stress and fear consumed her. She didn't tell her parents the full extent of what was happening. They were already sacrificing so much to keep her there. She didn't want to burden them with her troubles. Amina endured their bullying in silence, hoping it would stop, but it only got worse. One day, the three girls planned to humiliate Amina. Aisha took her most expensive bracelet, broke it, and placed it in Amina's bag. After the lectures, Aisha snatched Amina's notebook and refused to give it back. She questioned Amina about her lost bracelet and accused her of stealing it. Amina got angry and lost her temper. She has had enough of this bullying. She didn't respond to the girls and tried to collect her book from Aisha forcefully. In the process, she mistakenly pushed Aisha and she lost her balance and fell, spraining her ankle badly. Aisha screamed in pain and her friends alerted the school. They explained the situation and Amina denied the theft. The school then decided to search Amina's bag and unfortunately, they found the bracelet. The school administration did not bother listening to Amina's plea as she denied the theft. They quickly informed Aisha's parents and she was taken to the hospital. The school sided with the three girls because their parents had made significant contributions and investments in the school. Amina was suspended and her parents were summoned to a meeting with the parents of these three girls. Aisha's parents demanded a huge sum of money as compensation for Aisha's injury and the stolen bracelet, and the other girls' parents supported the decision. Amina's father pleaded with them, explaining their financial situation. Her mother cried silently, but the other parents were unmoved. They insisted on payment, threatening legal action if the money wasn't paid. Desperate to raise the money, Amina's father worked long hours, selling most of the things at his shop. Her mother borrowed money from friends and family, often enduring their pitying looks. They sold their belongings and even asked for loans they couldn't repay. The stress took its toll on their family. Amina's father grew quieter and sad. Her mother, once lively and cheerful, seemed to age overnight. Amina carried the guilt of knowing she was the cause of their suffering. Even though she had only been defending herself, she began to wish she never applied for the scholarship or even came across it. A knock came at their door later that night. Amina's mother opened it to find a man who was a close friend of her husband standing there with sorrowful eyes. He explained that her husband had been hit by a downfall bus while walking home from work and didn't survive. The news broke her mother as well as Amina. They informed her father's family and he was buried the next day according to their religion on that same day. Amina's mother had no choice but to go back to the school and plead. The school invited the three girls' parents and Amina's mother gave them all the money they had been able to gather and explained her situation to them. And they decided to settle the matter with Amina dropping out of the school, which her mother agreed. Weeks passed and Amina's mother, who was already weak and stressed, fell seriously ill and passed away. Amina and Fatima were left all alone in the world and Amina vowed to seek revenge and bring justice to her family. Amina and her sister had nowhere to stay as most of their family members refused to take them in. Amina had to beg her aunt to let them stay with her for a while. Her aunt, who was her mother's sister, was divorced and stayed alone. She eventually allowed them to stay with her with the condition that she could sell the remaining items at their home. She is a greedy woman who made it clear they were a burden. Her house was small and she reminded them every day of the sacrifices she was making by letting them stay. She took away all the little things their parents left for them and sold their remaining belongings in their house, but Amina was able to hide some valuable items from her. She gave them a tiny corner to sleep in. She fed them a small amount of food and nothing more. Fatima was only 5 years old then, and Amina knew she had to enroll her in a school. Her parents were still in debt, and it was left to her to pay. Now being a dropout at the age of 18, she got a job working at a small store, earning just enough to keep Fatima fed. She woke up early each day, walked long distances to save money, and endured rude customers at the store. But no matter how hard it gets, she's going to take revenge on the people who ruined the life of her family. Her parents had dreamed of a better future for her and Fatima, and she was determined to make that dream come true. Amina kept working at the store and doing other part-time jobs to save money so she could leave her aunt's house and take care of Fatima. But her aunt often beat her and took the money she earned. Sometimes, her aunt wouldn't give her or her sister any food and made her do so much work that she couldn't go to work. Amina suffered at the hands of her aunt, but couldn't do anything. She missed her parents terribly. Their absence was a constant ache in her chest. One day, while delivering goods for her boss, Amina overheard a customer talking about a free business training program that guarantees a good job opportunity if the training is completed. Curious to know about it, she asked for details and registered that same evening. The program was life-changing. For the first time since her parents' death, Amina felt hope. She began this training and excelled in it, impressing her instructors with her intelligence and determination. The program lasted for a year, and it was there that she met Ngozi, a bold and cheerful lady who became her closest friend. Ngozi inspired Amina to aim higher and never give up. After finishing her training, Amina was given a job at a multinational company. She never told her aunt about the job or the training program. One day, she packed her and her sister's belongings and ran away. She left a note telling her aunt not to look for her and her sister because they were already far away. The job was in another city, and she couldn't afford to miss this chance. With the little money she had saved, Amina got a small apartment with Ngozi, starting the new job at the company along with Ngozi, and it wasn't easy at first. She started as an assistant delivering packages while Ngozi worked under her. She worked long hours and did tasks others didn't want to do. She was hardworking and determined, and her supervisors noticed. She saved every penny she could, determined to educate Fatima and pay up her parents' debts. 3 years passed and Amina rose through the ranks of the company. Her hard work and dedication paid off, and she was eventually promoted to the manager of the company, while Ngozi was her secretary. With Amina's increased income she now earned, she moved to a bigger apartment, enrolled Fatima in one of the best schools in the city, and paid off her parents' debts. And this brought a sense of fulfillment she hadn't felt in years. It was during this time that she met Femi. While on a business trip with Ngozi, Femi was one of the wealthiest and successful entrepreneurs in the city. He was kind and attractive, and everyone loved him, and their shared ambition brought them closer. For Ngozi, on the other hand, it was a love at first sight to her. She kept admiring and praising Femi, and Amina knew Ngozi was interested in him too. Amina and Femi started as friends and worked together. He invested in the company she was working in and supported her. He showed a lot of interest in Amina, but Amina wasn't sure if she was ready for a relationship and didn't want to betray Ngozi. Ngozi noticed Femi's interest in Amina and tried to get closer to him, but things weren't going her way. Femi and Amina's relationship blossomed slowly as they kept it a secret from everyone. However, Amina planned to tell Ngozi by the end of the year because she didn't want to keep it hidden from her. Amina shared her life story with Femi, and he listened with understanding and compassion. He assured her that he would always be there to support her if she ever needed help. Amina's heart softened, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a future filled with love and stability. But her past weighed heavily on her. The people who had destroyed her family had not been brought to justice, and her desire for revenge remained. One day, while attending a business conference with Femi, she unexpectedly ran into Ayomide. A surge of anxiety washed over her, but she refused to let it overwhelm her. She decided to speak with Ayomide, but it seemed like Ayomide didn't recognize her. Instead, they became friends and started sharing business ideas. Amina got closer to her enemies, looking for weaknesses in their lives that she could use against them. She grew close to Ayomide and was invited to a party full of wealthy and high-class people. It was at this party that Ayomide introduced her to Sophia and Aisha. Amina made an effort to stay calm and friendly with them. Over time, Amina, Sophia, Ayomide, and Aisha became good friends and spent a lot of time together. Amina was determined to expose their cruel acts. She joined forces with a police officer, gathering information about the three girls so she could sue them in court. She even went as far as requesting the officer to provide her with the police report on her father's death, intending to use it against them in court. One evening on her way home, she got a call from the officer and he informed her that he had the report she asked for. She quickly went to see him and he handed her the report. She went over the report of her father's death and came across a detail that didn't make sense. The police report of her father's accident didn't match what she had been told. Curious and determined, Amina began digging into the circumstances of his death. Amina couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. She and the officer began investigating, piecing together fragments of information. Their search led her to a retired police officer who had worked on her father's case. After some persuasion, he revealed the truth. Sophia's mother had been the one driving the car that hit her father. She had bribed the police to cover up the accident, framing an innocent bus driver instead. The revelation brought back Amina's anger. Her family had been destroyed by the lies and cruelty of others. Determined to seek justice, she began gathering evidence, not just against Sophia's mother, but also against Aisha and Ayomide, who had contributed to her family's downfall. With the help of Ngozi, who paid some people to gather information about the three girls, Amina uncovered more shocking truths. Aisha, once the popular girl with the most designer clothes and accessories, had fallen into a life of drugs. She was working with one of the most notorious drug lords in the city, her life spiraling out of control, and also involved in illegal smuggling operations, using her family's wealth to cover her tracks. Ayomide's success was built on dark foundations. Driven by jealousy and greed, she murdered a co-worker and hid the body, leaving the victim's family in pain. Amina worked tirelessly to expose them, gathering evidence and collaborating with law enforcement with the help of the police officer to build an airtight case. But just as her plans were coming together, Ngozi saw a text message from Femi on Amina's phone. Curious, she opened the message and read their chat. She discovered that Femi had asked Amina out on a date. Later, Amina got dressed and looked stunning as she prepared for the date. Watching her, Ngozi asked where she was going, but Amina vaguely said she was going to meet a friend without giving details. Ngozi felt betrayed and decided to stab Amina in the back. She felt that Amina didn't deserve to be happy. Ngozi got the three girls' numbers and sent them a message, telling them she had important information to share and that they should meet. She revealed Amina's plan to the three girls. They were shocked. Never would they imagine that Amina could grow to the top like this. They knew they were in trouble. The girls confronted Amina on her way back from work, threatening her to hand over all the evidences she had. Amina refused and they tried to hurt her, even making several attempts to kill her. However, with Femi's help, she was protected from their attacks. Ngozi's betrayal devastated Amina, but she refused to let it break her. With Femi's support, she pushed forward, determined to see justice prevail. Collaborating with the police, Amina presented the evidence she had worked hard to gather against her former classmates and their families. The fallout was swift and severe. Aisha was arrested and sentenced for her involvement in smuggling. Ayomide's fraudulent schemes came to light, leading to her public disgrace and eventual imprisonment. Sophia's mother was charged with manslaughter, while Sophia herself was punished for aiding in the cover-up. Amina's actions led to their downfall, as other victims who had suffered at their hands came forward. The three girls and their families faced public disgrace, punishment, and the loss of their social standing. Ngozi, overwhelmed by guilt, took her own life, leaving behind a letter apologizing for her betrayal. Amina was heartbroken by the loss of her closest friend, but she found strength in the justice she had achieved. In the end, Amina learned that justice was not about revenge, but about standing up for what was right. She honored her parents' sacrifices by building a better life for herself and Fatima. With Femi's support, she found healing and hope, choosing to focus on the future rather than the pain of the past.